Hello, beautiful people. I'm actually just saying that for anyone that's about to join or is watching this in the future. So I'm going to give everyone a quick second here while I get some of my notes together and all prepared and fun. Hopefully we get a few of you joining in. If you are joining in and you can hear me, let's say hi to me. Write something nice in the comments. You know the drill. I'm live to you right now from my living room, a room I've become acutely familiar with. And for those of you who are jumping in, we do have a video coming up on the Lenovo Flex 5, which is incredibly hard to say every time. We've got that coming out. I think that should be ready tomorrow. But I wanted to jump in here because CES is going on this week, and there's been a couple of announcements, not really a bunch of stuff, but I did think it was definitely worth talking about since my goal is to be your real source for all of your Chrome related news this year. That's the future of this channel. It's the future of what I'm hoping to get from all of you. So like I said, I'm going to give everyone just another second or two to join in before I start ranting and raving about all the things I'm incredibly excited about. How do I sound, by the way? Do I sound as good as I assume? I got a new microphone for the house. I think it sounds nice on all the other stuff I've used it for. So hopefully you all agree. So yeah, how's everybody that's here doing? I see there's a couple of you joined in already. Say hello, so I know you're here. I can address you by name as I get all this together. Pulling up some notes. I'm excited about this. We had a few things come up. Let's see here. All right, well, we're about a minute and a half in. Let's jump in. So in last week's video, hey, as soon as I said that, of course, people typed, hello, Jennifer. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the party. And of course, everybody, feel free to ask questions as I'm talking. I would love to hear your thoughts. I just want this to be like not communication. Well, I mean, it's a form of communication. I want this to be a conversation, rather. Wrong CO word. I want this to be a conversation between all of us. So hopefully, it could be kind of fun and we just chat for a little bit. So right before CES started, we got most of our announcements. And I talked about this briefly in last week's piece about the future of Chrome in 2021, where we're expecting. It looks like we might have a guest star in today's episode. Come here, buddy. This is my dog, Morrison. He's very excited to be a part of this. Or maybe excited to find the leftovers of my sandwich off screen. But regardless of his attendance, get down, buddy. Hi, you're very sweet. Regardless of that, we had a few things that kind of got, I wouldn't say leaked because they were announced officially, but we had the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook 2 we talked about last week. And thank you so much. He is very cute. Thank you, Jennifer. But we talked about that, and we talked as well about we didn't talk about it as much in detail, but there's also a new one that released shortly after that video, which was the new Acer, the Acer Spin 514. So that's actually the first AMD Ryzen powered Chromebook. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that this year. Now, personally speaking, I feel pretty confident already in the processors that have been in most devices. However, on a personal note, my editing rig that I usually use, we use Mac ones for work, and then my personal one's a PC. But I just did my first AMD build this year, and I have been incredibly happy with what AMD is doing. I think you get a lot of horsepower, as it were, out of a very cost-effective processor. So I'm hoping that this is one of those things that could hopefully maybe, how should I say this? Over the last few years, I feel like the prices of Chromebooks have increased pretty dramatically. And I recognize as well that the internals have increased pretty dramatically to match the pricing. However, I personally got invested in Chromebooks because they were inexpensive computing options. That's why they were really popular in education. You get where this is going. So for me, sometimes seeing the $1,000 plus $1,000 plus Chromebooks is a bit of a turnoff for me. Also, hey there, thank you so much for the kind word. Feel free to catch it later. I appreciate you jumping in the chat with me. But a little bit of a turnoff for me. I love the devices. Please don't misunderstand me. But, again, I try to view things not just from the perspective of me as the Chromebook channel host working for a company that focuses predominantly on business to business sales and business to education, but also just as a consumer, right? Because like outside of this, I am literally just another one of you who is excited about technology. So I'm hoping to see that some of the shift, personally, my dream world is that Chromebooks cap at like the 750 mark, right? I know some of that might not be realistic based on what they put inside of it, but I think we'll start maybe seeing a little bit of that. So that's exciting to me. I obviously am a huge Acer fan, so I should hopefully have a 514 to my hands soon enough. They tend to send it to the consumer channels before they send it to the business end, which is why sometimes you might see other channels getting devices first. Just because the companies, manufacturers are frequently very invested in getting them into the hands of people they think you will definitely watch versus a company first, right? So get excited about that. Look forward to that. Look forward to me getting my hands on this Chromebook 2 or the Galaxy Chromebook 2. So that's very, very cool. So a few things I'm going to read off my notes here. So again, like I said, on this Acer 514 spin, they're starting it at $449. They'd also talked about an ARM powered Chromebook back in October, which I think is the spin 513. And they are saying that that's going to start. That's actually powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 7C. That's going to be at $399. Will we get more details this week? Maybe. I haven't really heard anything else. Great question coming in there about the Lenovo Duet in 2021. Daniel, I'm right with you. I really loved the Lenovo Duet of 2020. I was incredibly impressed, but I'm right with you. I'm not a fan of the size only because I have a good amount of size myself. So I'm very, and I've always been one of those people with my technology that I'm way more interested in function than form. So, well, here's a spoiler for the Lenovo review. I am curious about the Lenovo Flex 5, and I'm actually a little interested because I've gotten so many positive feedback from people, and I try to recognize and memorize as many of your names as possible, so I kind of build a little bit of rapport with you. But it was funny to me because my first thought when I picked up the Flex 5 is, I can't believe they love this as much because it felt kind of heavy, and that's something that doesn't bother me at all because I'm like, cool, put a lead brick in my bag if you have to. Does it do what I need it to do? That supersedes all of the other things that to me feel somewhat superficial. So yeah, on that end, I haven't heard anything about an update in Lenovo. I'm not super close with the Lenovo people like I am with some of the other manufacturers. And to be very clear, like all of this is what these manufacturers like about me is that I give them the honest take, even though they're often handing me devices. And it's one of those, I think, common misconceptions about reviewers in general. A lot of us are just journalism majors who wanted to talk about the things they loved. And, I don't cut corners. I don't pull punches. You can go back and look at some of my old Samsung reviews to know I'm willing to get right in there and be incredibly honest when I feel it's necessary. So those are big ones. I would say, honestly, though, Daniel, you might want to look into this Flex 5 already because right now, if you're a Costco member, it's on sale for $350. That was a crazy deal. I saw that hit my feed this week. So if you're not looking, and that's the i3 model. Of course, I always mention these deals because I know that's important. I get a lot of questions about deals, but I do think it stands to mention that we are a company who sells Chrome devices. So always check with us first and then, feel free to Google afterwards. So those are some of the big ones we first had up front. Let me go through here. I'm just pulling up all the different pages I've been staring at for the last week. Oh, so the other big ones last night is that Asus, who has been doing a lot of great stuff in the Chrome space, in my opinion, over the last few years, and I still have not gotten that 436, even though I got to touch it at CES in years past. But they're doing, Asus has got 3 new Chromebooks coming out this year. So they're all slated for release by Q2 of 2021. We have the CX9. It's their premium launch device. It's pretty much the Chrome version of, I think they're calling it the Expert B9 or Expert Book B9, which I believe is the Windows version. So this is probably Asus's first attempt at doing something super, super premium. And just judging from the pictures they've released, it's pretty good looking. It's I kind of like it. I'm a old film dork, right? So I see a matte black solid object of technology and I immediately go, oh cool, it's a monolith. And so I'm definitely getting monolith vibes off this, but it's like flat black. If you follow the channel long enough, you know how I feel about a matte finish. I love it more than anything, more than myself. So that's the first one. As far as some specs, not a ton of details here because there's multiple configurations available, but we have things like it comes with an up to the 11th gen Core i7 processor. You can do 16 gigs of RAM, up to 2 terabytes. So they did hear something in our video last week, 2 terabytes of NVMe storage. However, it starts at 128 gigs, which still move in the right direction, but that's awesome. This has the Intel Iris GPU. Very curious about what that means for the future of devices. I'd like to see how that's going to be going functional. Oh, hey, what's up, the Bazzer? Thank you so much for the kind words. I am also my favorite Chrome reviewer, so it's a good thing we have that in common. And I am very glad you love your C1030. I love it. I love it way more because I didn't have to pay for it. But I'm very glad to hear it's been good. And I am thinking that there's some new HP stuff happening this year, hopefully, too. Maybe? I don't know. Am I trying to lead you with that? Maybe I am. Oh, cool. Well, in that case, if you didn't have to pay for it, this is great. To continue on the CX9 here, though, it's mil spec tested. It's built out of a magnesium alloy chassis. It's only 16 millimeters thin, which is always one of those things I'm like, why just make it full port size? 2.2 pounds. USB type A and C, though, so that's great. It has a full-size HDMI port, meaning that Asus, I know you're watching my videos. Thank you so much for doing everything I asked. Wi-Fi version 6, Bluetooth 5. They've got a webcam privacy shield, which is something I also weirdly requested a bunch last year. I am making changes in the world. But last but not least, that one has a fingerprint scanner. We're getting a successor to the Flip line. So this year's Flip, replacing the 434 and 436. That is going to be now it's the Flip C536. Okay, and they're calling it maybe the CX5, which I think that's the move. I think a lot of the naming conventions on the Chrome side are always kind of bad. And in a weird way, I truly believe that if we started marketing these things more like other popular products, they would sell more. I guarantee that Samsung calling their newest Chromebook the Galaxy Chromebook rather than the Samsung FT2175. You know what I mean? Like, it's like brand recognition. I think that's important to the audience and the consumer. And I think it's one of those weird things that seems to happen so frequently in the Chrome space and a little bit less frequently in Windows and Mac devices that I think help them in an odd way kind of retain foothold. I know that sounds a little weird, but I think I don't know. I've spent enough time doing marketing in my life that I also feel really confident that I'm 100% correct in that. Anyway, going back to the C536, that one also is available with up to a Core i7 processor, 11th gen. That also has the Intel Iris GPU. This one's got a 15.6-inch FHD display. It's an IPS style display, 250 nits, which reminds me, I didn't say on the other one. On the CX9, it's a little smaller at 14 inches, also full HD display, but it's 400 nits. But that's also their super premium one. Let's see here. Back to the 536 though. Up to 16 gigs of RAM, up to 512 gigs of storage, micro SD card reader, 2 USB Type-C, 1 Type-A, another full-size HDMI, micro SD card slot. They mentioned the battery on this one. I am super hyped. Let me see here. Oh, the C13 Yoga ThinkPad. I am super curious about that because there was a ThinkPad Yoga, I think a year or two ago, that I never got my hands on, but I was really curious about. Excuse me, but heard was wonderful, and I still have yet to get to play with it. So if anybody, let me know where you see that. Actually, if you want to drop me a link in here, I would love that, just to maybe do a little more research on our backend and see if our Lenovo Connects could maybe hook me up with that. Again, if any of you manufacturers are watching this right now, please just start sending me stuff. Just write me a message, and then I can DM you privately, and then we can laugh about something, and then I'll be like, okay, anyway, back to business. Please send me things. Last but not least, the third one they announced was not like part of the big show at Asus, but it's another one. So this is the Flip CM5. This sort of looks like it looks like it might be a little bit, I don't know. I'm judging it. I'm looking at the specs. Again, it's hard because everything is up to, so it could kind of go either way, but this one is similar to the 536, but swaps out that 11th gen Tiger Lake for an AMD Ryzen processor. So that's kind of awesome. Hoping that could be really great. Oh, you're in Germany. Okay, so maybe my that might not help me out as much, but I appreciate you letting me know. So these are running this CM5 one here, similar flat black finish. Some of the notes mention that they've got orange highlighted keys on the side, which is interesting. And I don't know, I think with things like Google Stadia and the absurd amount of comments I get about things like Roblox and Minecraft, this could be, I don't know, it definitely has a little bit of that gaming computer vibe, just visually speaking, right? That I could maybe see this being a clever way a manufacturer sort of trying to endear the gaming audience to be like, hey, we do have some options here. It might not be a traditional, maybe you're not running Steam, but you can run Stadia, you can run GeForce Now, you can run, there's a third one as well. but there's multiple streaming services. Heck, I think PlayStation now has an app that you can stream either remotely your PlayStation to the device directly or dial into their streaming service, which I think is called PS Now. But the point is, I think they're definitely trying to I think they're trying to sway a few of you out there, and I'm into that. I personally, I would love some, in a silly way, I know these don't matter, but this is what I think it's important you know this about me as a reviewer. Sometimes those little aesthetic things matter a lot to me, and sometimes they don't. So it's like, yeah, I don't care about it being 3.5, 4 pounds or whatever versus 2 pounds. But what I care about is like, does it look cool? Somebody look at this and think that's really cool, Mark. But I think this is going to be really interesting. Right now, they're talking about the first two we talked about, or excuse me, the first two arriving in Q1, the second one in Q2. So that means that these should be showing up really, really, really soon, meaning that I am going to have a lot of video content for all of you. So those are some of the big things. We didn't really get a lot of info. Like I said, a lot of the devices dropped right before CES, and historically, Chrome doesn't have a ton of how should I say it? Not foothold, but for lack of a better term, they just don't have a lot of presence at CES. I don't think it's the same thing, right? CES is as great as it is, often caters to a lot of like, did you know that this toilet has a jetpack built in, and like stuff that's mostly just cool proof of concept. I think it's almost an event designed for you to say cool more than it is necessarily for you to get great, useful information that will affect your life in like the immediate short term. But that said, we did get some stuff. You heard the ones we talked about. So my question is, did you all hear anything different? Is there something I missed in my research? Is there something that you're still hoping we haven't addressed? I say we like I'm building Chromebooks. That's actually why I have the dog. He's in the back unscrewing back plates. But yeah, that's where we are for now. So if there's no questions immediately, I'm going to jump off here in a second and get back to putting together. We've got, like I said, I've got the Lenovo Flex 5 unboxing coming. And then shortly after that, we'll have the full review of it as I get some more time with it. Initial impressions are pretty solid though. Okay, here we go. Here's a good question. I can tell you're excited about AMD, but what are your thoughts on ARM? Yeah, I think it's so. That's a great question about the ARM processor. At first, when they first started doing that, I wasn't entirely sure. I'm sorry. This live stream is directed by J.J. Abrams. That's why there's all the lens flares. I think you make a great point here. I think there's an excellent argument for the fact that those are definitely. I'm glad you mentioned the hinge. I'll get to that. But I think the ARM processors are definitely a great solution for Chromebooks in general. I've not had. Aside from maybe like in 2017 when they were first sort of really diving in on those, I haven't had any issues with them. They all seem to run really well. I'd probably have to go through specific. You can imagine I see so many devices throughout the year that I'm like, yeah. I think it is a great thing. I think it's great in regards to, like you mentioned, processing power versus battery life. Because, right, I think at the end of the day with a lot of these devices, they're kind of trying to take a triangle of expense, power, and like success, and you kind of only get two of those, right? So I think they're just constantly in a balancing act. So yeah, I think ARM in general is a great solution for Chromebooks until they start doing larger applications or things of that nature. I agree. The Lenovo Duet is that's a wonderful example. That Chromebook surprised me so much last year, and I totally understand why it made so many best of lists, and made my best of list. It was a wonderful device with a wonderful experience, and outside of the physical small keyboard, I had no complaints about it. It was one of the first times where I felt like Chrome really nailed the tablet. And not that I didn't like the Pixel Slate, but like I definitely felt that this hit all of those corners of it was a cost-effective computing device that worked surprisingly well, was incredibly portable. I mean, it did all of those things. The dog keeps bringing me the toy right out of camera, and it's cracking me up. I think that's a great point. And as far as cell phone app support, that obviously makes it way easier to support a lot of Google Play Store apps, or GPS, as the meme I saw earlier call it. But I think that's a great point. But, I will say cell phone app support is great, but I haven't really, outside, every so often, I think I asked this on the channel, you all should let me know a bunch of applications in these videos that you want me to check out, because for me, I'm very much looking at it like, okay, what are things that I think we run across often in comments from the business world? What are things that we run across in the education space? And then I try to look at it as best as I can from like a general consumer aspect. Like, all right, I'm going to try and get some really resource intensive application, and we're going to run with that, and we're going to see what happens. And honestly, I know this is, and I should back up and say I historically have weirdly good luck with bugs in technology, like games, you name it. I just don't ever seem to run into them. However, I haven't really run into any problems with apps. Either it's outright, this application is not compatible with your device, or it works no problem. So again, please let me know if there's certain applications that you all are curious about. Going back to the comment and question about the Flex 5, I saw a lot of you mention that in the last week's video, and the first thing I did was like, well, we'll see about this. So I don't know if maybe I've gotten one late enough that maybe they've changed some of the things they've done on the manufacturing side, but I will say it did feel pretty well built so far. But I'm going to definitely kind of beat it up a little bit this week just to see, especially because there's been so many comments about it. And I see the one on the right is basically missing. That is insane. I'll look at mine. Mine looked physically good. And you'll see in the video when we release it tomorrow that I'm doing the hand. That's the universal sign for opening a laptop. But I kept doing that over and over again. To Garrett here. Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate that. I also think I'm very funny, and I don't know. I wanted to bring, I feel very fortunate. I got lucky working for a company who saw the value in not just doing this channel, but also letting me bring my personality and spirit to it. And it's one of the things I'm most thankful about being here at Promevo and running this channel. I mean, literally, they just have let me run this. It's wild. It's one of those things that is very uncommon in the corporate world where somebody says, hey, creative person, I know I'm paying the bills here, but just go do whatever you want so long as it's successful. It's incredibly rare, and I'm so thankful I have that opportunity here. And in turn, I want you to know that not only I read these, but I know my boss reads them, and I know, I'll at least say my boss. I don't know if the rest of the company watches the videos as much as he and I do, but I know he reads them, and I know he appreciates that. So at the risk of sounding like I'm fishing for compliments, seriously, write that stuff in there. Just kind of validate it, because I like getting a paycheck. And the longer that happens, the happier I am. So seriously, Garrett, thank you so much. Back to Bazzer here. I'm curious about the Google Workspace Enterprise. So I don't have any feelings on either of that right now. However, at some point this year, I will likely dive into it unless something happens on the other side where we're, off on different projects. What name because if you all don't know this, we do occasionally do other internal videos for the company and things like that, in addition just to the YouTube channel. So yes, thank you, Daniel. Lay it on him. I'll just start leaving his email. I'm like, here's his phone number, everybody. Please text him. Please don't. But it's still all jokes. Okay, so back here, let's see. The right part on the Flex 5 looks just like a hinge, but it's no hinge. That's weird. Okay, well, it's literally on my couch outside of frame, so I'm not going to go get it right now to do it, because that would also spoil the next video. So, but mark my words, I will definitely put the hinges through its pace, and we will get to the bottom of HingeGate 2021. And I'm mad at myself because I promised I wouldn't do that thing where you added gate to the end of things, because they only called Watergate that because that was the actual name of the place. Like, so when they're like, oh no, it's, I don't know, HingeGate. It doesn't really make sense. It's the Hinge conspiracy. That's where I'm at. So yes, I would guess that the build code. Okay, so the ThinkPad Yoga C13, I agree. I would guess, just from a casual Google I did in the background, that the price should be, the price denotes that the build quality should be better on that C13 or the C13 ThinkPad Yoga. But yeah, I will say this: the metal piece was missing on yours. You definitely have a defective model, because I will say this: mine looks perfect. It looks just like every other flexible hinge for 360 devices. So I would definitely, maybe not necessarily reach out to the manufacturer, but I guess depending on how long it's been since you purchased, I would at least reach out to your point of purchase. Hey, Epic Gamer 256, what's the best Chromebook for under $300 right now? Well, I think I will confirm this, and if everybody in the chat with me will back me up, I think we all are pretty much in agreement that the Lenovo Duet is the best Chromebook for under $300. It's an awesome device. It's really powerful. It's super compact. It's only about 10.1 inches, I believe, is the screen. It's 10 point something inches. The keyboard's a little small because it's the device itself is small, but it is surprisingly powerful for the price. And I think it sits right around 250-ish. Now, I will say, I'm about to do a review on another piece from Lenovo who's been getting a lot of love from everybody in the channel. And I finally just got mine, but that's the Lenovo Flex 5. Which I know we carry. I'm pretty positive we still have in our shop. And I just recently saw a deal that I mentioned earlier at Costco. If you remember, it's only $350, and it has been getting wonderful rave reviews. I'm literally in the middle of editing our unboxing piece on it and working on the review. So I'll have the unboxing out tomorrow. I'll have the review out early next week. I would tell you to look into that as well. I know some other people and other reviewers have gotten it, but if you're a cool fan of the channel, which you clearly are because you're here in the chat, I would tell you to drag your feet a few days and see what my take is. But I mean, if you're, you can still watch the competition. I'm sure they're fine. They're just not fun. That's the thing. I'm trying to bring the personality to Chrome. I think Chrome needs someone like me because they don't really have anybody hawking it that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to sound disparaging, but it's not like we have like LeBron walking around with a Chromebook or something like that. So I think in turn, we got to have a little fun with it. Garrett, let's see. Do you think Lenovo will make a new version of the Duet that's more powerful with thinner bezels other than the P11 Pro? I don't know. I'll say this, and I'm just trying to qualify. I don't mean anything I'm ever saying. When I say these things, it's never negative. I'm just trying to state I don't have a super close relationship with our Lenovo representative. Again, not in a bad way. We don't talk as often as the other ones. They are sometimes quiet. And I'm very loud, so I imagine sometimes we won't match up there. So my thought is, personally, with the success and how many times Lenovo has been on best of lists for that device, for literally one of the cheapest devices that's hit the market in months, I can't imagine they wouldn't think about going back to that well again. Highly recommend it. Hey, Bazzer, thanks again for joining us today. I appreciate you as always. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for being so interactive in here. Good luck with the metal piece. Let me know if you have a problem with it, okay? So yeah, I think another Lenovo Duet would be silly of Lenovo not to consider doing that. Okay, Nafa, thank you so much for joining us. What about the Asus Chromebook Flip CO302? That was one of my favorite devices. I think that one came out, was that 2016 or 2017? But it got a lot of love. I did a comparison piece between it and the similarly released, it was the Samsung Chromebook Flip, the original one. I ended up liking the Flip a little bit more just because it was a weird device, and I am easily swayed by weird. However, we actually have been using that Flip C302 at work for years now. Like, I mean, I literally just saw it an hour ago in the studio as we locked it back up in the cage. It still runs great. So if you're in the market, I mean, I think it's definitely an older device, but it's great. I would tell you, maybe if you want something a little more recent, there's the Flip C434 and C436 that came out in 2020. And earlier in this piece, which will be available for you all to watch later, there are three new Asus Flip models coming this year. So I'd say maybe drag your feet just in case. I want to make sure everybody goes home happy. And yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for joining the chat. Thanks for talking. We had a lot of people and a lot of chatters in here. That's fun. All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to cut this off at 30 minutes even. We have a minute and a half. What does anybody want to talk about? Take the floor. And if not, we're just going to end it early. But seriously, do you have any questions or anything? Garrett, my pleasure, man. Seriously, happy to help all of you anytime. If any of you ever have a question, I try to answer literally every person's question. And until it becomes overwhelming, I will continue to do that. So seriously, leave me comments on the channel. I read all of them. They're not falling on deaf ears. I am, I'm trying to make this channel for our company, but at the end of the day, it's for you all. And hey, Epic Gamer, I know you joined in a little late, but the crazy news is that a few of the devices we talked about today, in particular, those new Asus Flip devices, which I think will be higher priced than $300 that you'd asked about earlier, but they are coming out with some new Intel GPUs for those Chromebooks. Now, I don't have a ton of details on those GPUs yet, and it's not like they're going to be running a GTX 3080 or something like that. but it's running something. So I'm curious. Now, the thing is, I think that Chrome is so focused on the cloud thing. I don't think they're ever going to have GPUs in the traditional sense, because I just can't imagine Chrome trying to compete with the PC market. I just think that market is huge. It has been huge forever. I'm going to try and tilt this a little bit so you can watch my kitchen, but the glare is killing me. Yes, the Iris Xe, exactly. So I was looking at that. Check out the new Asus, like the CX5. That was one of them. Look into what they're releasing or they're announcing at CES, because they talked a bunch about those GPUs. I'm really curious about that. If you haven't tried it before, I am not necessarily trying to advocate for this, and we don't do a ton of stuff gaming here since we are predominantly business focused, but I am a gamer in my life and have used this service pretty extensively. Excuse me. But Stadia, don't believe the negative hype. It kind of rules. Like, it kind of rules for real. It is insane to me that I took a Lenovo N22, which is like a 6-year-old. It was a $200 Chromebook 6 years ago, right? And I can stream. Like, I was like testing Cyberpunk on it, which, I mean, aside from the glitches and that, but it ran beautifully. You were literally, what's so cool about the services like Stadia and like GeForce Now, PS Now, because now PlayStation jumped in that game, and all those types of services, I really think you'll see more stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy to think that you could just run that on anything. You'll be solely at the mercy of your Wi-Fi adapter. I think that's cool. All right, I'll take this as the last question here. Will Chromebooks have markets like laptops? I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question, but if you mean things like an application store, I would assume we'll continue to see that grow. I'm hoping that, because we've slowly seen this shift, I'm hoping that we're going to start seeing more attention to the Google Play Store and to make it a more viable, I think, when Android first became popular, they competed really heavily with Apple, and then eventually kind of just, and don't take this the wrong way, but they kind of just, it happens all the time in technology. Someone else does it once. Someone might try to do it a little different and it doesn't make enough money. And then they're like, okay, well, we'll just do whatever the first person did, right? Like it happened with things like the iPod, right? You had all these competitors, and then eventually everyone's like, you know what, I'm just going to make my own iPod and just call it the Zune or whatever. So that's sort of my thought process there. So I'm hoping that will be the case. And yes, I'll give you that one too. Technically, Chromebooks can be used offline right now. And if you look through the channel, I can't easily pull the link while I'm in the live stream, but if you look through the channel, we did a video on some of the offline features. I want to say it was either earlier this summer or maybe last year. So it shouldn't be too deep in the videos, but look through that. We talked about how to set it up, because most things you can use, with the exception of things like Chrome, which is obviously an internet browser, and you would need internet access to do that. So, but you should be able to do pretty much anything else that doesn't require internet speeds. They've gotten a lot better about it. It's just one of those things that this is the catch. You have to have internet connection to enable those capabilities. So personally, I kind of hope they do away with that. I think that's a weird, I understand it because of how Chrome works, but it's one of those things I'm like, this is something that may need to be addressed, because what if I never thought I would be in a situation where I was without internet, and then finally I'm like, oh, I'm on an airplane traveling. How do I turn this on now? Right. And it's like a huge problem. So anyway, that's where we're at with everything, folks. So again, as always, if you have questions, I'll answer these after the fact too. But in the meantime, I'm going to go finish working on the unboxing video, and I hope all of you are subscribed to the channel. I'm guessing you are. But if you're not, please subscribe. Please hit like on this video. Share it with anyone, or else, there he was. Sorry, I'll give you the rundown of this. You'll appreciate this joke, I hope. My name is Mark Borison. My dog here, this cute little charmer that keeps sneaking into the frame, this is Bark Morrison. So he's a good boy. Oh, please don't do that not on the live stream. He's a great kid. So he's going to help with the reviews this week, maybe, but he's not good in the studio. On that, everybody, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for repeatedly supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Not only did you guys get us to 10,000 subs last month, we're like already almost at 1,000, at 11,000, not even a month later. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, and greetings from the U.S. Martin, I'm so sorry I'm about to end the stream right now, but I hope everyone in the Netherlands is doing well as you. So on that, everyone, my pleasure. Oh, yeah, I will gladly give more notice next time. I just kind of had this thought while I was editing. I'm like, I should just do a quick live stream for them. Daniel, actually, maybe you can give me a little clarity on this. What would be the best way to alert you all to a live stream in the future? Like, would you want me to jump on like our Twitter page? As a company, we don't do a ton of social media stuff. Not that we're against it, but we tend to focus on the video end of things, and then our marketing team is usually swamped with like other things. So the social media thing sometimes falls by the wayside. But if that's something you think that would be a good way, I would be happy to. I've been trying to figure out how to be able to post those updates in YouTube that aren't videos, because I notice on my personal, whenever I'm watching, I can see Donkey tell me he's streaming later today, and then I'll have a video later, right? But I don't have that feature enabled for some reason, so I don't know if that's only available once you're super famous. But I mean, 11,000 subs, that counts, right? Yeah, I think the email address could work, except that it'd be hard to immediately, probably, without having to just email 10,000 people. It could be difficult. But I'll look into it. I'll look into a few things. Maybe I can figure out a good mailing list, and I could try to figure something out fun for you, if that sounds good. On that, I am really going to get off here. Thank you all so much. I want to finish this video up so I actually have it for you tomorrow, instead of saying I was going to have it for you tomorrow and then it doesn't show up. So on that, I hope you all have a great day. Please always leave me your comments. I love chatting with all of you. You all are awesome. I appreciate it. Seriously, so much. The company appreciates it. My boss really, really appreciates it. We're having a great time. I want to have a great time with everybody. If that sounds good to you, enjoy your day. I'll talk to you all soon.